Here's a quick rundown. 1981 Ford 150, four-wheel drive, custom. Really can't see that. Pull this out here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you go into your transmission. There's 4 Phillips screws on your boot. Pull those Phillips screws off. Pull the boot out. This particular one, you can see those the way that cup is with the side rings. That makes sense to you. You're just going to push down as that cup sits in. Push down on the cup and turn. You gotta. For me, it was a little harder. So what I did was, I pushed down with some big set of pliers and was able to adjust that. Big set of channel lock pliers. So here's another tip to make it easy, because you want to get your truck high off the ground. I like the ramps, and then I back it up with jack stands and a floor jack, but I just found that a little bit easier. That's how big that thing is coming out. Well, it's out. So, I disconnected the drive shaft. You want to tape your U-joints so they don't come apart. You also want to mark them with whiteout or something. So you can see right there, I marked that with whiteout, and I marked the drive shaft with whiteout and the bolts and the U-bolt. So I know exactly how it goes back together to keep it balanced. Maybe on these old rigs it's not a big deal, but I work on our Volvos and other things, and it's a big deal with those things. Disconnecting the bolts. We'll walk around on the bell here. Yeah, I forgot to get a towel down, or another sheet down. She leaked a ton of more oil on me. Okay. So the way this thing is oriented, this is the top. So the top ones are the shorter bolts. So those are the ones that go in first and come out first. That's just the setup to line things up. You want to make sure you disconnect all your linkages. There's your spinometer, I believe. It's a spinometer that goes in the back. You can't see it here, so disconnect the spinometer in the back. For me, to get the, we'll go back here. To get the center, the first thing, you're taking this stick shift off and you start loosening all your bolts. I like to loosen everything and then pull them off, not take them out totally one at a time. I think it's safer that way too. Here, it's a cross member. So for this one, I left this together as 2. It was way easier. Disconnected it from the transmission, disconnect it from the frame, disconnect it from the frame. I used a large pry bar to basically raise up the piece that bolts onto this, that bolts to the frame. So I just popped that up and then hit it with a rubber hammer and slid one side out of the way cockeyed, the other one came back this way. So one side goes out, one side goes in, and at the time I had the transmission slightly jacked up to take the weight off this, and I could pop that cross member out. When I did this, I also had the drive shaft disconnected, all the linkage disconnected, everything else, but I left a couple of bolts in the bottom halfway in, so if there was any issues, it wasn't coming out of the truck, which it wouldn't. I mean, you got to pull these things off, but just to keep it super safe. Then I used a couple of jacks strapped to the transmission, and then I tied another come-along strap on the back. So once I had it safely strapped to both jacks, my bigger jack and my smaller jack at the back, and it was loose, and I knew it was loose, I just slid it out. And then I lowered it down to the ground and slid it out from under the truck.